Hey guys, it's Matt again from Hedge. Coming here today to bring you another educational video. But before we begin, I just gotta say something. It's extremely important. First of all, this is not financial advice. I cannot stress this enough. We do not accept liability for any losses that you may incur. We're simply here to educate and provide you news so that way you can make better decisions in your own landscapes on your own time. So with that in mind, you should be able to enjoy this video. What I'm going to be talking about today is something called Boson protocol. And you're like, all right, what is Boson protocol? Well, I'm about to explain it. So what it is, it's basically another NFT platform, but what makes it a little bit different from a lot of other ones is that they plan on making NFTs that are redeemable for real world items. Meaning that, like, let's say you decided to buy a laptop. You could buy it in the metaverse the same way that you would walk into Walmart, and then that NFT that you buy online, you could redeem it and have it basically sent to you in real life. This becomes something interesting because now we're adding a whole new layer of being able to buy products in a metaverse, which was just a virtual reality that we just said, okay, we're going to make video games. But now we've actually created a system where we could take a video game where we're going out and browsing like we normally would in VR or doing whatever we would do in VR, and have an actual marketplace to go and buy a redeemable, I guess, NFT for a real product. So that becomes something interesting because you're taking a digital economy and turning it physical. And that's why I actually wanted to talk about this project today. I see that as a new type of use case for NFTs. And I've mentioned it on my videos before that this is something that NFTs will likely do in the future, specifically with smart contracts, and being able to even, let's say, do a mortgage through an NFT in a smart contract. This is coming. The other reason why I think that this is something that's interesting is just the whole concept of it is the ability to have an escrow, which is basically a system where it's like you could have your money deposited there, and then when the NFT or the product is released, bang, the payment is received. So it's no longer something where it's like, let's say you pay online, it doesn't arrive on time, it doesn't even arrive, and then you have to call the company and you're like, where's my money? And then it's they gotta wait for them to ship it again. It's like, no, the escrow is only released once the product is received, which right there will add a little bit more of like legitimacy to an online product, especially from a site that isn't Amazon. This is like the ability to give people Amazon like credibility without having to have billions and trillions of dollars at their disposal. Another thing that's pretty interesting about using NFTs like this is this could actually reduce the cost of products over time, especially, let's say, a house, because you won't have to have all these third parties involved with mediating that deal. So now let's say in the current landscape of buying a house, you would have to contact a mortgage broker who's going to contact the bank, who's going to contact the notary, who's going to contact the lawyer, who's going to contact you know how many contacts there are. Every person's got to get paid. That's expensive over time. And especially in a world where our housing markets are increasing, 20 to 40% a year, you can't afford to pay someone 2 to 3% per person on that house. You're going to go broke just paying the fees. So it's only inevitable that smart contracts and NFTs are going to be handling the bulk of these transactions, and maybe one legal processor to just make sure that you pick the right contract for this. So for me, it's just a natural progression of reducing costs in an already inflated world in terms of, the economy and where it's at. This is a very fresh project. The ICO finished this year. It basically launched at roughly about $4, the ICO, and it hit an all-time high of $5. And then now it's corrected down. It went to under $1 at about the 80-cent range, which is an excellent buy zone. Right now, at time of recording, it's sitting at $1.25 US. Now, like I said, this isn't financial advice, but just looking at it mathematically, it's down. It's down from its all-time high about 60 to 70%, which means that just from a perspective of the current price to its all-time high, it's still got about 4x to go, which means that, it has a good chance of just reaching its all-time high. Usually when a coin hits its all-time high, there's a good chance it'll hit it again. Just from that perspective, if it were to hit its all-time high, it would have a market cap of about 160 to 200 million, because currently it's sitting at about 40 million, which is extremely small. That is a small market cap. That is not a lot of money in it, especially considering that the project is getting more and more use cases. Also, considering that the circulating supply is only 38 million, which is considered a very small circulating supply, it's very easy for this coin's price to go up parabolically just because of how small the supply is. So let's just say it were to hit, conservatively, if it were to hit a 500 million market cap for this kind of innovation over the next few years, that would mean that it has a minimum of about 8 to 10x from the current price, which isn't bad. When you look at it from an investment perspective or a mathematical perspective, it's not a bad amount of gains to have on any project. Another thing that I wanted to mention is they plan on using these NFTs to create more, like they're trying to basically move forward digital economies and e-commerce economies and be able to tie, I guess, multiple platforms within a digital world, creating a virtual version of a brick and mortar that could connect with multiple online entities and platforms. The goal is to try and create interoperability, and that interoperability should be able to give it some market cap, which is what we're looking for. Another thing that I wanted to mention is they do have some pretty good partnerships, one of which was Decentraland, and Decentraland is one of the largest online platforms for virtual property. So a lot of people are currently buying property in the metaverse so they could go be there virtually. And I feel like this is going to become more and more of a trend as VR and these kinds of games become more and more popular, especially due to COVID, people not being able to travel as much. Virtual reality is like a virtual chat room where people go there virtually to talk. That's becoming a lot more popular. And eventually, these are the lands and these are the platforms where you're going to be interacting with to be able to actually, be in the VR world. When you look at it from that perspective, it's almost like you're looking at almost a new economy. It's definitely something different, and it's hard to wrap your head around just because it's all virtual. But it's like they're creating our kind of world in a virtual reality. And Decentraland, to wrap up that partnership, they also bought the largest private sale of land ever on Decentraland. And I think it was for about $700,000 for one plot of virtual land. And that's where they plan on doing, it's almost like the first digital VR marketplace where you could just walk in virtually and be a part of the marketplace, which is pretty interesting. Another partnership that they landed is with World Mobile. And basically what they want to do is they want to create that connection to the metaverse to actual real stores. So it's like the same idea that you might have an EB Games in a physical location, you could have one in a virtual location in their metaverse. With these kinds of things in tandem, it's like they're trying to like recreate that old feeling of being able to go to a store and buy things, but without actually having to go and reducing the cost of the company to be able to go there. So it's very interesting because that reduces costs of actually having a brick and mortar location by a lot. So it's like when you look at it from that perspective, paying $700,000 for a plot of land seems ridiculous, especially digital land with no actual value. But then when you look at it from a perspective of there's not a lot of digital land that's actually compatible, and also from whole ideology of how much does it save not having a real brick and mortar, just having a virtual location that all you really need to do to keep it running is have a server. You don't have to pay rent. You don't have to pay insurances. You don't have to pay all these other things that would actually cause a company to decrease its profit. From there, all you're really going to need is a virtual land with a virtual storefront and then a warehouse to send it out. So the realistic cost of all that is very low compared to buying a spot in the mall that's going to charge you more and more every year because they're just trying to keep up with inflation. This could actually reduce the cost of goods over time by using these kinds of models. The last partnership that I wanted to mention is they partnered up with Ocean Protocol. Ocean Protocol is basically just a platform that is being used to integrate Web3 into these metaverses. And Web3, all it is it's just like the equivalent of a browser extension, like an ad blocker, but for wallets. So imagine it's like having on your Google Chrome, you'll have a little extension that's like, oh, this is where my wallet is. This is where I can handle all my money and be able to make my purchases in this little metaverse. So it's like the way it's being tied together makes a lot of sense. I could definitely see that becoming something, maybe not necessarily now, because we might be a bit early for VR, but in the future as VR grows, it's only a matter of time if projects like these continue to grow and see more market share. The last thing I wanted to mention too about the World Mobile platform, I was my mind and I wanted to make it clear. not only do they plan on having those connections from the metaverse to the real world, but they've even mentioned saying, because it's relatively well known in the world that not everyone has a bank. There's not a lot of banks in the world, but crypto as a whole, cryptocurrency plans on banking the unbanked, because all these people that don't have a bank, they do have a cell phone. And what basically World Mobile wants to do is they want to create it so that way it's like people who wouldn't normally have access to those real world goods could go into the metaverse and use their platform to actually be able to get goods that they wouldn't be able to normally get just by going on Amazon, for example. Because not every place will have Amazon. You get what I'm saying? So now it's like they're even making it accessible to people who wouldn't normally be able to get it. That's another reason why I could actually see value in that partnership. To wrap it all up, it's not financial advice, but this is definitely, in my opinion, something worth keeping on your radar over the next few years. Just like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us for more content. Be careful, because there's scammers in the comments that might be asking for private keys and put forth like, oh, make $1 million by clicking on this link. Don't click the link. It's just not a good idea. So with that in mind, guys, have a great day.